If you're a Stranger Things fan, you've probably felt that odd sense of déjà vu, that weird feeling that some scene, some character, or even the title font is saying, hey, you've seen me before. Well, you're not imagining it. There's a very real reason for that. Stranger Things is basically a love letter to 80s horror, and no one shaped that era more deeply than Stephen King. From the very first frame, the Duffer Brothers make something crystal clear. They grew up devouring King's stories, and they didn't just get inspired. They built the show's DNA around the author's trademarks. The eerie atmosphere, the supernatural themes, the emotional weight placed on childhood like trauma, fear, and discovery. Every piece feels like a quiet echo from King's worlds, and today we're going to walk through those echoes one by one. Let's start with something simple, yet impossible to ignore. The Stranger Things title card. You know that glowing red font that looks like it crawled straight out of an 80s paperback? It's not an accident, it's a tribute. The Duffers actually mailed old Stephen King novels to the team at Imaginary Forces, the studio behind the opening sequence, and their mission was to make it look like those novels' art style. The final result came from a modified version of the ITC Benguiat font, the same style you'd find on King's books from the 80s and 90s. So when you see that title pulse onto the screen, you're not just watching a show begin. You're being pulled into a King-inspired universe before a single character even appears. Telekinesis is everywhere in Stranger Things. It's the show's beating heart. But supernatural children with terrifying power, that's one of Stephen King's oldest obsessions. Eleven is clearly a spiritual cousin to two of King's most iconic characters, Carrie from the novel of the same name and Charlie, the pyrokinetic girl from Firestarter. Think about the similarities. Both Eleven and Charlie are raised as test subjects. Both fight to control abilities that could hurt the very people they're trying to protect. And both are hunted not by monsters, but by the government that created them. Every time Eleven screams and a wall cracks, every time her nose bleeds, it's like a fragment of King's universe bleeding through. Now let's talk about something most fans recognize instantly. The first season of Stranger Things is built on the emotional foundation of Stephen King's novella The Body, better known through its film adaptation Stand By Me. Episode 4 of Season 1 even shares the same title. The show doesn't hide this homage for a second. A group of boys searching for a missing friend, a body discovered unexpectedly, long walks on train tracks, conversations that sound like they were pulled from a childhood memory that's both painful and beautiful. Episode 5 completes the tribute perfectly, with 4 kids walking the tracks just like in the movie, where innocence meets danger and where friendship becomes the shield against a world that suddenly feels too dark. If there's something Stephen King mastered, it's the art of writing kids as real people. We can see how they are flawed, scared, brave, and growing. And the book, It, is the ultimate example. In Stranger Things, this coming-of-age element is everywhere. But the heart of it all lies with the group of outcasts. It's impossible not to see the parallels with King's Losers Club, a tight-knit circle of kids, each dealing with personal struggles, each growing in the shadow of something monstrous, and each finding strength in the friendships they choose, not the ones life gave them. Even King himself pointed out how much he enjoyed this homage. And honestly, how could he not? There's a moment in the show that hardcore King fans instantly recognized, even before Twitter caught it. Lucas aiming a slingshot at the Demogorgon. It looks almost silly at first, until you remember the battle against Pennywise. King's story, The Losers Club, uses a slingshot too, and not just for show. They actually injure the creature with it. They learn that Pennywise, in whatever form he takes, has weaknesses tied to those forms. So when he appears as a werewolf, the kids fire silver slugs at him using the same weapon. And when the adult versions face the creature again, yep, the slingshot returns. So Lucas wasn't just being brave, he was stepping into a literary legacy. Still in the It universe, there's one moment in Season 2 that almost feels like King himself slipped a note into the script. Bob Newby tells Will about a clown that terrified him as a kid, Mr. Baldo. Baldo isn't Pennywise, but the way Bob describes him is pretty familiar. We recognize the tone, the fear, and the childhood trauma that sticks like glue. It's impossible not to feel the shadow of Derry hanging over that scene. Sometimes the references are not metaphors, they're literal books on screen. In episode 4 of season 1, a state trooper casually reads Cujo in the morgue while Hopper walks in. That's not random. Cujo had just become a cultural sensation a few years before the show's timeline thanks to the 1983 film version. It's a small detail, but those are the details that build a world. On season 4, Lucas reads The Talisman to Max while she's in a coma. It's a touching moment, but also deliberate, because the talisman is about a boy traveling to another world to retrieve an object that might save his dying mother. A story about crossing worlds. Inside a story about crossing worlds. Perfect symmetry. If you're a Stephen King fan, you know one truth: sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't supernatural. They're human. That's why the bullies in Stranger Things hit so hard. Season 4 especially dives headfirst into cruelty, the kind that doesn't need tentacles or alternate dimensions to ruin someone's life. Eddie Munson becomes the target of a witch hunt fueled by teens who think they're heroes. The scene where Dustin is threatened with a knife feels ripped right out of it, almost mirroring the moment when Henry Bowers corners Ben Hanscom. King understood that real-world violence hurts more because there's no magic to stop it, and Stranger Things doesn't shy away from that. Then comes Billy Hargrove, arguably one of the clearest nods to King's human antagonists. Billy isn't just a bully, he's cruel for cruelty's sake. He's the kind of character King writes better than anyone. Someone so broken, so angry, so violent that he stands shoulder to shoulder with demons and monsters. His visual design is no coincidence either. The denim jacket and jeans are straight out of Randall Flagg's description in The Stand, and the blonde mullet is a direct homage to Jamie Sheridan's version of Flagg in the TV adaptation. Billy looks like he walked out of a King novel and straight into Hawkins. Finally, we reach the heart of Stranger Things, the Upside Down. It's not an exact copy of anything King wrote, and that's good, but the parallels with The Mist are undeniable. Both worlds are the result of government experiments gone horribly wrong. Both unleash creatures that feel alien, predatory, and ancient. Both blur the line between our reality and something we were never meant to see. King has always loved playing with that thin wall between dimensions. We see it in The Mist, we see it in Lizzie's story, and we feel it every time the lights flicker in Hawkins.